Keys to the Shop, episode 143, behind the scenes of the new movie Baristas, with director Baijnauth. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Keys to the Shop, where we give you insights, inspiration, and the tools you need to grow as a coffee service professional. My name is Chris DeFerio. I'm your host for the show. Welcome, and I'm really excited to have you along today as we talk with the director of the second Barista movie called Baristas, Baijnauth. Now, you are probably familiar with the first Barista movie. It was a really big success, and it catapulted the visibility of the competitions to a very global audience. They're back with another movie. This time they're on the global circuit following various countries' champions and getting an inside look into their preparations for competing on the world stage. And we're going to be able to get the inside scoop on some of the things you can expect from that follow-up movie. Now, this episode of Keys to the Shop is brought to you by Prima Coffee. So Prima Coffee, they are a leading specialty coffee equipment supplier, and they curate the best equipment from around the world to fit perfectly with the needs of both their enthusiast and professional customers. So whether you're setting up a home bar or you're setting up a commercial coffee bar and you need commercial equipment for your locations, Prima Coffee can definitely help you out. Helping you succeed in making great coffee is what drives them. And if you're looking for the best equipment and expert assistance to go along with it, I highly recommend prima-coffee.com be the place that you go to look for solutions to the situations that you find yourself in. Give them a call, email them, see what they can do to help you find the right gear for every circumstance that you're going to have as you expand your coffee bar. They really are experts, and they love helping people get fitted with the right equipment. It's so important because you're going to have it for a long time, and it's a huge investment, and they take it seriously. So again, that's prima-coffee.com. Highly recommend them, and tell them Keys to the Shop sent you. This episode is also brought to you by the Pacific Barista series. This is the award-winning line of plant-based performance beverages that are designed specifically for professional baristas and the standards for excellence that they demand. Whether you're talking about almond, soy, rice, coconut, or oat milk, its ability to take the heat from steaming, produce an unmatched silky texture, and keep the flavor balance of their beverage focused on coffee, which is huge. It makes it a perfect choice for your cafe's menu. Pacific is a huge supporter of the barista community and is dedicated to their success. You can see that on the competition stage and in the daily goings-on of their business. These products are just a testimony to that fact. I would encourage you to go to pacificfoods.com, learn more about the Barista Series line of plant-based performance beverages, and see what they can do to help elevate the non-dairy options you offer your customers in your cafe. All right, so today, again, we're talking with Baijnauth, the director of the second Barista movie, Baristas. And now, this is definitely a great time to be talking about this film, as we've just finished up our, at least in the U.S., the championships for Barista, Brewers Cup, Cup Tasters, Roasters, and Coffee and Good Spirits. And I want to say a huge congratulations to all the winners of those competitions. Coffee and Good Spirits champion Matt Foster of Caldace Coffee, Cup Tasters champion Jen Apodaca of Royal Coffee, Roasters champion Shelby Williamson of Huckleberry Coffee, first female Roasters champion, also so awesome, U.S. Brewers Cup champion Kaylee Gann of Messenger Coffee, and then finally U.S. Barista champion Samantha Spillman of Delano's Coffee Roasters. Congratulations to all of you. And this is just something I hope will keep us energized about competitions, as Boston is coming up shortly with the World Barista Championships, and everyone converging on that stage is going to be an amazing experience. So this is what the film hopes to capture, is that experience of just preparing for a really high-pressure 15 minutes representing coffee farms, representing your company, representing yourself as a barista, and just packing in a ton of value in those routines. And it really is the Coffee Olympics, and they have done an amazing job on these movies capturing the essence of what it's like to go in and curate, prepare these presentations, and all that the highs and lows that go with that kind of pressure cooker environment. Rock and I discussed these things in our conversation today. On top of being the director of these Barista films, he is a Los Angeles-based writer, director, and producer who got his start in filmmaking by writing comedy spec scripts for John Davis's Davis Entertainment, working on films like Chronicle, I, Robot, and Little Miss Sunshine. After receiving his bachelor degree in film from the University of Toronto, Rock sold his first documentary film called The Pirate Tapes to HBO Films. And since then, he's gone on to oversee projects for a myriad of illustrious clients, including IBM, Virgin Records, Emblem Music Group, DTS Corporation, and the Government of Canada. In 2015, Samuel Goldwyn Films acquired the worldwide distribution rights to Rock's feature-length documentary, Barista, a film that will now serve as a launch point for the much grander documentary, a sequel entitled Baristas, which has been acquired by The Orchard for worldwide distribution beginning April 2nd. At its peak, Barista reached number 2 in both indie film and documentary categories on the iTunes charts. It was also beloved by audiences and received a slew of critical acclaim from the LA Times. They call it the Jiro Dreams of Sushi meets Spellbound. Variety magazine called it playful and endearing. And Austin Chronicle said it was incredibly savvy and that Baijnauth has struck gold. So there is a lot of expectation leading up to this movie. A lot of baristas are wondering what it's going to be like. We're excited for this expanded, or what is said to be the grander version of the first movie in this second movie, Baristas. And in this conversation with Rock, we dive into not only his choice to cover coffee as a subject, but also what went into the first and the second film. What were his experiences in the industry as he is relatively an outsider, from the point of view of us professionals, his perspective of, coffee competitions. He is a consumer of coffee, but what are his observations of the coffee community from then, back in 2013 until now? What went into this new movie, Baristas? Who is in it? What can we expect from it? And what does he want baristas who watch it to walk away with in terms of an experience and motivation, etc.? So again, I'm honored to have had an opportunity to talk with Rock about this film. I think the trailer is just come out a day before this episode airs, so make sure you go and view that. I will have links to that in the show notes of this episode. So here now is my conversation with the director of the second Barista movie, Baristas, Rock Baijnauth. Hello, Rock. Welcome to Keys to the Shop. Thanks for joining me on the show today.
Oh, thanks for having me, Chris. Appreciate this very much.
Yeah, my honor. And you're getting ready to come out with the second of the Barista movies. When is that coming out?
We are scheduled to launch April 2nd, and pre-orders on iTunes will be early March. So right now they're looking at March 5th. But yeah, we're so thrilled. We're working with this company called The Orchard, and they've done, a movie called Cartel Land and What We Do in Shadows, and they're just a really rad company to be with. And yeah, we're so excited for that.
Nice. Congrats. You must, I was going to say, you must be pretty excited. And this all leading up to just this one date. Has it been just like work ever since the first one? Just like, all right, the second one's coming out. Let's start right now and go. Has it been like 3-4 years of just working on this film?
No, it's actually, it was quite a hiatus. We weren't even sure we were going to do a second one. And we kind of we got a lot of interest in sort of telling a bigger story that would have been the world championship. So when that idea, we started kicking that around, and obviously that was a more, costly endeavor. So it took a while to sort of raise the money and get that going. But, fortunately we did. And so we kind of shot it over the last, I would say year and a half, maybe 18 months, and like from start to finish. So yeah, it wasn't like a full, 4 years of planning, and we had never intended to do a second one.
How did coffee come up as a subject for you to cover in this documentary style? I know you're in film. Where does that fit into your story to decide to kind of dive in head first like this?
Yeah. So I always loved food movies, or movies based around like beverages and things like that. Like Sideways, I love, and like the Bottle Shock, and I saw Som, and I was like, man, this is cool. This is a cool movie. And it would be like a great idea to sort of do something like this that was a love letter to coffee. And it never intended to be like this 4-person or like 5-person competition movie. It was always intended to be more of like, this is where coffee comes from. This, more like almost an educational way. And just cause I've always loved drinking coffee, but like, I was like, people can do this for wine on so many different levels. Why can't we do this for coffee? And I think you can kind of see that even happening in the industry now too. It's like these trends that are very similar to, where it's trying to just elevate it, to a different level. So it's like, I just thought it was a cool thing to do. It was like, yeah, we can do this for coffee for sure.
So had you been a coffee fan previous to this?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I always loved coffee. I'm from Toronto, so there's like tons of great coffee shops there. And, so yeah, I've always just like been a coffee fan, per se. And it's like just by virtue of, I came out here to LA to write screenplays. So by virtue of that, you're always in a coffee shop, just like pounding on the keys or something. So that was my second home, or like my office. So yeah, you're just like immersed in it all the time. And I think that kind of also lends itself to wanting to tell a story about it.
Yeah. So you're telling stories through your films, and is that the motivation to be in film yourself? Like when you started into this medium, what is it that drew you into filmmaking as artistic expression?
Like I'm sure a lot of people have this experience too, like when they're young and they're playing with, wrestling figures or dolls or whatever it is, or Ninja Turtle action toys. And like, you create these like little narratives. And I always say like, I kind of never grew out of that. And I wanted to like, just keep doing that and making up stories. And so that like stories in general have always been interesting to me. Just the way they're told, and film specifically as a medium. It's like, you get to work with so many different other disciplines, and like with the music, and which is a huge part of our films, like the music and the score and the lighting. It's just so many different talents having to come together to make something, and that's always been like just really cool for me. I love that idea of having being able to work with so many people, and then coming out with like a piece of art that is like a product of so many different hands touching it.
So all these years later, having done this with your first movie, looking back, what are you the most proud of in terms of that piece of art? Like what was your goal? What did you want to communicate to people?
Well, it's something that, and it's the passion between like what we try to do, because like as documentary filmmakers, you're not dealing with these astronomical budgets or anything, and so much of it is like the passion of it has to push you forward. And I think like with this movie, we really, like, from whatever everyone's told me when they see the movie, they're like, man, I didn't realize so much went into that, and like how passionate these people are. And I'm just like, so it was sort of a metaphor, really, like from the ground up, for what we've been doing our whole lives, like trying to make these movies with like not, where commerce is a big concern, and you're just like trying to do this thing that you love for the sake of passion. And I think that was like the focus of the first movie. And I think it came across a lot, like when we were at the theater and people were like, man, I want to like start up the band again, or I want to like go, like, so it's like people just like, so that was like whenever I hear like one of those stories. And I was just recently at a coffee competition, and someone was like, came up to me, and it was like the most touching. This was last year, or like just a few months ago. And he came up to me and he was like, man, I saw that movie. I didn't know you made it. And I just, he's like, I was going to give up in coffee, and now I have like 4 shops. And he's like, I saw that movie and it really inspired me to like keep going. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. And he was just like, if I had to rate my best movies, it'd be like Lion King, then yours, then Les Mis. And I was like, oh, I'm so happy. Oh, wow. I made it in there.
That's so excellent.
Yeah, I mean, stuff like that. It's just, it's amazing. that makes it really, really worthwhile.
Plus, getting to know the industry too. I mean, going through this process, you're becoming intimately acquainted with baristas and their shops, and just the whole culture around coffee. Was there anything that really surprised you as you made the film, both this one and the new one? Positives, negatives about the industry that you're just like, I wouldn't have expected this.
Yeah, well, I mean, even for me, like you're only looking at your own industries usually, like on the day to day. You don't know a lot about other people's like day to day lives, and when you finally like film these guys and girls like doing their thing, it's just like, whoa, this is like these guys care about what they're doing as much as I care about what I'm doing, and it's just like a really unique perspective to see like, you're just kind of outside of yourself, seeing somebody just work as hard as you do at something that you love. And so like when I first started, I was just like, I never really had like detailed long conversations with the baristas or like even about the coffee that I was drinking. And now it's like more commonplace, or like I'll leave a shop and I'll walk back. If I have like a great drink, I'll walk back in and like, and I've done this numerous times since making the movie, and it's something I probably would have never done had I not made the movie. It's like I'd go back in, like wait in line and just like tell the person like what a great drink it was. And like I know it really like it pumps them up because they're doing it for that reason. Like they're doing it because they want, to put a smile on your face. And I really think it's worthwhile to go do that. So anyone who loves their drink, go do that.
Well, that's a great piece of advice. There's so much
Yeah.
just transactional in and out, and that's a great observation that baristas are just kind of starved for feedback in a sense, like at least positive feedback. Because a lot of people have really specific things they want from their coffee, and for the most part, especially in specialty, we claim a really high level experience, and people are genuinely coming in with some skepticism.
Yeah, for sure. But I think like it's like anyone loves to be appreciated. So yeah, when someone does something great for you in that way, and it kind of makes your day, I feel like that's something worth, going back and telling them, because it's just like it really kind of fuels like the idea that, hey, I'm doing this for a reason. Like, it's not just like a job. It's like whenever someone tells me they've appreciated the film that we've done, it's like, okay, so all those hours were very much worth it. Yeah, I think that, I can't stress enough how important that is.
So this second film, I want to dive into a little bit of what we can expect from it. Does it follow a similar format, or is it different? How is it different, and how is it similar? What are some things that we should look for in this upcoming film?
So basically, like with the second film, what we have like just baked into it is how grand it is, and the scale of it. So we went to 4 different countries, and where the first one was very like LA centric. It was kind of filming like what was going on in LA at the time, and that was just by virtue of like how much money we had. We're based in LA, and we were like, okay, these baristas are very cool, and like, they're great characters, and they're close by, so we can tell their story, and it won't break the bank. And this one, we were fortunate enough to have a nicer sized budget, and we were able to like go, to Japan and Germany and Ireland and then the US, in North Carolina. And it was just like the scope of it is just so much bigger. And I think also just, how close we get to the baristas in this one. 'Cause when you do the first one, everyone, and this isn't like laying blame on baristas, it's just a thing in documentaries. You're asking someone to let them into your life in a very personal way. And so when we did the first one, I think everyone was sort of like, who are these guys, and what are they doing? And like, it's just like that idea. And you're just, so you're like, the first one was a lot of like trying to win trust. And it was kind of really difficult to get a lot of the preparation and a lot of the, cause nobody knows what our intent is. Like initially, like the idea, when people would ask us, they're like, oh, are you going to like do this like Christopher Guest like best in show thing, and that was never like our intent. Like when we were like going out, I just thought it was just a cool competition to focus on. But so the second one, luckily like the baristas just gave us so much more access into their lives, and it feels a lot more personal. And I see like where the first one kind of focuses on one's passion for something. I feel like you definitely get that in this, but also you get like, no matter kind of where you're from, like this pursuit of excellence and like how we prepare for competition is very much like a universal thing. So, the themes are a little bit different as well. And just visually, I can't stress enough how beautiful this movie came out.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's we're really proud of even just the way it looks and the way it sounds, and I'm very proud of it.
So can you tell us who are some of the people in the film, or is that something confidential until the release?
No, not at all. So we followed Miki Suzuki, who is the Japanese national champion, Kyle Ramage from the US, Niall Wynn from Ireland, and Chloe Natras from Germany. So we follow those 4 baristas through their whole competition training, which is really, really awesome to see how differently people prepared, but still with that kind of razor focus, and like everyone just kind of wants to win, and it was a wonderful thing for us to see like unfold in real time.
So what are some of the differences that you saw in the way that people went about preparing?
I mean, it's just in styles. Like some people worked and like endlessly, just constantly over and over and over again. And some people were like, I'm just gonna, step back and like, we'll do a session and then relax and like explore the city more. And like, that was just getting in the right headspace for competition. And like, when it was time for them to do their thing, they'd call us up and be like, okay, we're gonna rehearse. We're gonna practice now. Like, let's, come film this. And then there were other people who were just like, we had, 12 hours of them just like working constantly.
Holy cow.
So yeah, it was definitely like different in the way people prepared, but like the intensity when they were working was just the same for everybody, and it was, I think so that's what like one of the things that we took away was like, everyone just really wants to represent for their country. This was truly like the coffee Olympics for us. We said that about the first one, but it was just like, as far as scale goes, it was like, we watched the first one now and we're like, this feels like almost science fair-esque. Like it feels a little small compared to the world where you have like all these people cheering and stuff. And it had like a very like Harry Potter, like Quidditch match feel when I was on the floor. It was very cool. Yeah.
Well, they say that you should be able to look back at your early work and be like, yeah, I don't know. And that shows you're supposed to have made progress.
I hope people say that. I hope I feel like we did. So I'm hoping other people see that.
The way you're describing it, and I'm a fan of the Chef's Table series and the headspace that they get into in the chefs do. They have various ways of going about pursuing excellence. It sort of reminds me of that. Like each competitor has their own way, and we're so tempted to try to find like the article or the podcast or whatever that says, here's a secret to how you prepare for barista competitions.
Yeah.
And it seems like that's one of the things that competitors first stepping foot into competition would get wrong, is they just kind of take from somebody else and then do it. And I don't want to say wrong, but it's something that they have to do at first. Like they mimic it first, and then they have to find their own style. And you're filming some high level competitors who have already learned that lesson and found their own way.
Yeah, I mean, I say it all the time that like one of the biggest like honors I've ever had was like filming champions. Like these guys have all won their respective like nationals, so they know what it's like to compete at this like really high level, and to get to film someone who's like that good at what they do and that focused at what they do. It's just it kind of blows your mind to see them functioning at that level. And so it's like we kind of just want to present that and have the audience feel like how intense it is. And I think like one of the coolest things about the preparation is like it goes so beyond coffee, and we were fortunate to capture that too. It's like the things that people do to prep. Like we have one competitor, giving too much away. He did like speech and vocal lessons with like a voice coach, and we got that on film, and it's very like King's Speech in the way we decided to film it. Like just they're staring like right at the camera doing these vocal lessons, and it was just like, wow, like look at the lengths that people go to win this competition, that goes beyond like just making sure you have excellent tasting coffee. Those were the like kind of the things that surprised us the most too, like the different ways people prepare, and there's quite a few of them in the movie.
Well, it's very interesting because there's only 15 minutes of performance, and all these hours are put into all the minutia that make up those 15 minutes. And used to be in competition that you didn't have to, I mean, you prepared, but not nearly to the lengths that you do now, because the judging of the competitions wasn't nearly as thorough. And as the competitions have taken shape, the expectations for every little thing being just right has put enormous pressure on the baristas to, make sure that when they say they're putting X number of milliliters of a, extraction into their signature beverage, it better be that number of milliliters or somebody's going to know. And before, people are just kind of putting an generalized ounce of, some liquid into in coffee, and if it tasted good, that was fine. So things have really changed. And I wonder if you are able to sort of see a difference in the industry because you took such a deep dive into it, in particular the competition side of things. Is there a difference from what you saw doing this project 4 years ago as opposed to now?
Yeah, most definitely. Like even every year progressively, like when we started filming this in 2013, the first movie. So it was like, and it got released in 2015, but it was sort of, coffee seemed like it was, at least in LA, kind of in its adolescence, and it was just, there was still, when we went into the shop, that sense of a little bit of pretension, a little bit of like, it seemed like it was just trying to prove something. It seemed a little angsty. And now, like I go in and I just see like it's just matured so much where like, there's less snootiness. There's more like genuine, care going into things, and not just for the sake of like, we have the best coffee, you should know that kind of deal. Like it's more, that's like just a universally accepted thing now. It's just kind of like, I'm going to go into this shop or that shop and the coffee's going to be great. And nobody's going to make me feel bad if I don't think that or what. Like, I just think it's just way more approachable. And I think that comes with the industry just maturing a little bit. And yeah, that's kind of the biggest thing. And as far as the film goes, like I said, like, we were filming sort of LA at the time, right before, this huge bust. I think G&B was still at, Squirrel. Like they were still operating out of Squirrel. Now they're just like a massive company. Yeah. So just seeing even the growth of coffee in where I'm like in LA is nuts. Like it's just, there's, on the East End downtown, it's just, there's a coffee shop, like they're almost like Starbucks. They're like a third wave coffee shop on every corner now. So it's just like, just seeing that kind of explosive growth, it's just mind blowing. Just, so I'm glad we got to capture sort of that moment as it was happening in real time. It was cool to see it evolve like that.
So, this is a large industry, and we are more than competitions. And as a filmmaker, you want subject matter that's really compelling, and there's, no better representation of compelling coffee stories than people in competition. But what about the other segments of the industry? Do you worry that these films would give the perspective to the public that, all baristas in these shops are like these high-level competitive baristas, or or do you ever worry about over-representing competitions in these documentaries as you're making them?
Yeah, that actually was like a huge kind of concern when we did it. Just to, because a lot of baristas don't compete. This is just a very like kind of niche thing, and it was just kind of an interesting thing that we wanted to focus on. And we actually get into. I try not to engage in Twitter battles a lot, but like there's some times when, we get called out for things about representation and those things are very, very important to me as a filmmaker and a storyteller. But sometimes we just choose to tell, a lighthearted, fun story, and that was like there's so many paths you can go down with talking about the coffee industry, and making sure every person along the chain is represented. But when we chose to tell like a small story about this barista competition, and it just sort of caught on bigger than we thought it would. Like we never expected to see it on planes and things like that. But so it was never like our intent to be like, hey, this is to represent coffee in this one particular way.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think those are very like important questions to address. Like a lot of times we'll get like, hey, why didn't you include like more minorities or more women in this? And it was just like, it's sort of just like, these were the people who it's a shame, but that's what the industry looked like at the time in the competitive circuit in 2013. Mm-hmm. It was heavily, white male dominated, and that's not great for the industry itself. But we're trying to just make a documentary that shows kind of what's going on at the time.
Right. So
as
low
well.
on narrative, not a lot of storytelling from your part, but more telling the story that's already there.
Yeah, exactly. So and yeah, again, like there's times we get slammed for like not doing that, not telling that story of the farmer, or finding a person of color who is competing at the time. But when I looked at the list, it's definitely like a concern in my head to like find that person and like try and tell their story as well. But there's just times when that doesn't work out for whatever reasons, logistics or, and it's just like, it's just a shame that we can't tell every story, but like this was the one that we kind of chose to tell in the moment. And it's like, at times it's like difficult to get, I keep saying slammed and that's like a very harsh word, but at times it's difficult to get like criticized for not making a different movie when we had like intended to make this one, and because there's a lot of great coffee movies that talk about everybody being fairly compensated from the ground up. And I think those are awesome. And I think people should go out and watch those. But again, like we kind of picked like a small story to tell, and that's the kind of the one we ran with. So, and we're trying to remedy that even in the second one and just making it more, diverse. So I hope we've remedied that.
Yeah. So that was something in going forward that you looked back on from the feedback and thought that's what's going to be part of the creative process and make it a plan to be more diverse in who you cover and how you tell the story in this second one. What is it that you would want to have baristas walk away from this film thinking or being inspired by as you try to represent the industry in a more broad sense as far as diversity goes, but also just kind of a different angle in competition? What should the average barista, who may not be a competitive barista, get from this movie?
I think it's just how high all of the competitive baristas kind of hold themselves on a day-to-day. They don't serve drinks they're not happy with, like even whether it's competition or not, like when they're practicing, and we're mock judging, and we were fortunate enough to be like mock judges, and if they tried it and they weren't happy with it, they would not want to serve it. And I'm not saying that happens a lot in third wave coffee shops, but I think there are times when you go and you get not, sometimes you'll get not a great drink, and that can be said for any establishment that serves food and beverage. But I think the standard that they hold themselves to, and making sure like, hey, I'm putting out the best work I can put out, and enjoy. And the ones at least that we follow sort of look beyond being a barista as a job, and it's just like, this is my my career and my craft, so I only want to serve you the best. So I'm hoping like people see that and get inspired and just say like, hey, I want to kind of rise to this level of excellence in my day to day, not just whether you're a competitive barista or not.
Yeah, exactly. Whether you're going to pursue that line or you're just working the bar, you can definitely hold yourself to a higher standard. And I feel like baristas oftentimes will go to food documentaries and read food industry books, or like you mentioned, Somm, or the wine industry in general, as motivations. And I think it's great that your films are coffee related, so they're like about the community, and they can inspire that particular community instead of having to translate that passion over from somewhere else, which we'll always still do that. That it's just kind of a healthy mix of inspirations, but this is creating a bit more of a resource for people to be inspired by the people within their community on the big screen.
Yeah, and I'm also hoping that like it kind of enlightens baristas just who don't compete regularly, just to watch it and be like, oh, that's what competition's like. Maybe I'll do it. Maybe I'll up my game next year. Like I've talked to maybe 4 or 5 people that have said that, like, I would never have thought to compete. Now I want to, and like just learn more about my industry and like source these beans and kind of like do it from the ground up. And I think that's a great conversation to have with someone too, where they never knew that existed even in their own industry, or they knew that it existed, but only on a very like, superficial level. So it's great to hear that too, that like when you've made something about, someone's industry and they hadn't heard about it, or they hadn't like done the research into it until they saw the movie, and it enlightened them in a way too. So I take a lot of joy out of that.
Nice. Then they could end up with 4 shops.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
So I really appreciate you spending some time to talk about this and what you've learned in the process. I'm really looking forward to seeing the second film. And is there a third film that's going to be put out, or what's you're just going to see how it lands and go from there?
No, there's not. We've made a hard, like, the thing is, like, now it's like starting to pigeonhole me into like, oh, you do coffee movies. So it was, as they do really well for us, and they just like, it's a great industry, and it's just like, you're hearing it here first. I'm just, this is the last coffee movie we're doing. But no, I hope, like, I think that means like the story's been told fully. Like, where do you go from the worlds? Like, if there's a universe competition, then we'll do that. Maybe, but like, it's like we've done it on the biggest scale we could possibly do it on now. So it's like,
you could always go to lots of little coffee shops and discover coffee shops. I'm not going to convince you against what you've already decided, but I'm just saying.
No, are you? I thought you were talking about Barista, like the franchise specifically, like another competition movie. But
I mean coffee films.
Oh, coffee
in
films.
General.
We haven't really even thought about doing another like film in the space yet. It's just like these take so much out of you. All documentaries do, but these are just like, it's a lot of travel and a lot of I'm not complaining. I love it. No new coffee movie on the horizon.
Well, I would appreciate these two. And an interesting question crossed my mind, and this is maybe equipping your competition in a way, but there's a lot of creative people in coffee. And I expect that from your movies, people will want to make movies themselves. about coffee, small or large. In the future, there's going to be somebody that wants to do a documentary about their town or their country or their coffee shop. From a pro, what kind of advice would you give somebody entering into that from what you've learned doing these films and your other films?
Oh, okay. Thank you for calling me a pro. I love that. But so as far as like telling a story goes, I think that's the most important thing. If you're gonna just tell a story that's broad about coffee, that could work, but I just don't think that's as interesting. Like that to me strikes me as more of like a news piece. But so it's like I always start with characters. Like if you could find a great character for your stories, then you've like won as far as the documentary goes. So you're just when we found the characters we found for part one, we were just like, okay, this is the like we're gonna follow these characters and it's gonna be interesting, and we just have to follow them throughout and make sure we're as authentic as possible to what they're trying to put out there. Because they're already so like rich as people, so it's just it was just a matter of like kind of turning on the camera and being around when they let us be around. So it's just, I would just say always, like, whether you're writing about like a small shop in your town or filming something, a documentary, just like, I always start with character. Make sure you have someone who's like pulling you through this story. Cause without that, it's really difficult to like, I find material, no matter what it is, to be really dry unless you're being propelled by someone, through this world. So, I think that's like, as far as making docs or making other coffee movies, that's like the best advice I could give someone, is to like really nail down who your characters are and make sure they're interesting to watch.
Right. I mean, how did you guys go about finding the people in, well, I guess we know about about LA and the budgetary constraints and all of that, for the second film. Like what's the process look like?
The second film was a lot of like pre-interviews and just a lot of research on our end. Like we saw Mickey basically, who made it to the finals quite a few times in Worlds, and we were like, this is a good person to bet on, that they're gonna carry you through to deeper stages in the movie. It like when we looked at that too, we kind of tried to do a balance of like, people who were gonna hopefully finish in the later stages of the movie, because you don't want your movie to end after round one when there's like 3 rounds of competition. So, so so that was a lot of it, like just doing our own personal research. And then again, we had sort of, there were people who we wanted in this like really badly, and it was just like, logistical concerns, like, even getting our camera gear into some origin countries was really, really like just a difficult process. So we weren't able to film some of the people we wanted. Winston Thomas was one of them in South Africa. It was just like beyond what we could spend on for our budget to get to South Africa, and like also just the requirements to bring gear in there just didn't really fit with what we were able to do with the money that we had. So it was someone who I wanted to put in there and just even make it more diverse even, but it just didn't happen. But again, it's sort of like a combination of researching and then like doing these pre-interviews or pre-phone calls and just seeing like who kind of lights up the camera and who kind of has a story to tell. So we did a lot of that before we kind of zeroed in on who we were going to film.
Nice. Can't wait for that.
Yeah.
You and I were talking before we were recording. I know you said like no more coffee things, but there is something that is sort of like on the horizon for you in particular about coffee. And I think maybe this makes you a coffee pro now in a sense. Like you have a coffee company that you're starting, or is that the right way to put it? Tell us about this a coffee venture that you have happening pretty soon. It's launching, right?
Yeah, it actually is launching pretty soon. So right now it's going to be a subscription service, but just focused on beans. But the initial thing was like, we should come out with beans. We did it for the first one actually, as part of like a Kickstarter rewards thing. And
right.
yeah, and someone was like, you should expand out on that. And we've been talking to a bunch of roasters, and I think we finally settled on one, and it was just like, it was really, really great, great coffee. And we're like, man, this is it. This is the brand. So it's going to be called, Lovecraft, which is, a lot of people are like, is this from H.P. Lovecraft? But I have not read anything of his, and I need to, but I haven't. But it was basically like the combination of like a love for craft coffee and so it's just, that's how it kind of evolved. But that's the name of it, and it's coming out hopefully in the next couple weeks. And like with the launch of the film, I guess it's 4 weeks, but yeah, it'll be around for the launch of the film, and we're hoping people like what we do. We're not experts. We just like, we've been able to taste like some of the best coffees in the world, and we love what we love, and we're just like, this is great. This is like, let's do something like this, and yeah, I'm hoping people love it as much as they love the movie.
Nice. Well, congrats on both fronts.
Thank you.
It's going to be a busy couple of months for you coming up.
Yeah, it should be.
How can we how can we stay in touch with all you're doing? Where can we find information online and stay up to date?
At Barista Film is our handle. So on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. So you can, at anything at Barista Film, you can check out the updates as they come out. So we'll definitely be like dropping the trailer soon, is what I'm told, and a new poster, and we're just looking forward to like every step. This is like the month before is like just all the excitement's happening. We get to come on podcasts like this and have a lot of fun, and it's great.
Sweet. Well, thank you for coming on the show. Yeah, good luck with the films, and thank you for all that you've done in creating these things. They've really inspired a lot of people, and we're just thankful for you.
Oh man, thank you so much. You're talking me into a third one now. Okay, thanks, Chris. I appreciate it.
Well, you know what I think? I think that this documentary, I think that what Rock has done with these movies is essentially what baristas do with their routines. They try to encapsulate a story of a coffee, a story of their own career in exploration of an industry, and the messages that they give in that 15 minutes. This is what Rock has done in these documentaries. He's captured the story of people telling stories about coffee. And this kind of an experience, packaged the way it is, delivered to the masses, helps popularize specialty coffee, helps motivate specialty coffee professionals. And I think we're really fortunate to have these barista movies as a reference point for people, for ourselves, for motivation, of course. Also for people who don't understand competitions and want to know a little bit about what goes into them. These are really helpful references that people can latch onto because they're based in story. And like Rock shared in this episode, story is so huge. This is essentially what filmmaking is about. This is what making coffee is also about. It's the story of the coffee, again, and it's also the part that we play in other people's story, our customers, our coworkers, etc. The whole thing is just a grand experience, and the more opportunities that we have to capture these stories in the form of competition routines and films, I say the better. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this film. Thank you so much, Rock, for creating these movies and for joining me on the show, and the best of success to you in the launch of this new film. We really appreciate you. So if you want the key notes and takeaways from this episode, links to resources mentioned, and news about what's coming up for Keys to the Shop and Keys to the Shop consulting and speaking engagements, all that stuff, I would encourage you to go to keystotheshop.com. Just click on the contact tab or go to the bottom of the page and you'll see a place for you to sign up to receive the newsletter. And that newsletter, again, is going to have the key notes and takeaways, essentially the show notes for each episode. Also the transcripts of each episode are available there. And I hope you like the new website too. The purpose of it is to really make the episodes more searchable and more accessible to you who need to have easy access to particular topics, whether it's maintenance of your espresso machine or dealing with coworker conflict or managing employees. All that's there on the website. Now, if you want to reach out directly to me, it's chris@keystotheshop.com. I'd love to hear from you if you have feedback, comments, questions. If something about the show has really helped you, I love hearing those stories. It really is encouraging to me and keeps me going. It's really awesome when I get to hear those stories. Now, one of the key things about Keys to the Shop, no pun intended, maybe subconsciously intended, but one of the key things is this show is built for your success as a business and as a professional. And as Keys to the Shop goes on, we've expanded into offering consulting. That means that you can hire me to help you get your business off the ground the right way, or if you need to upgrade your operations, your coffee quality, or the way that you manage your employees. Those are all things that I can help you with through Keys to the Shop Consulting. If you go to the website, keystotheshop.com, and click on the consulting page, you'll see those areas that I specialize in. For my 20 years of experience in retail coffee, I've gained a lot of knowledge, and it would be my pleasure to put that knowledge to use for your benefit. Again, that's part of the reason why this podcast exists and gives you these tools and tips and insights on a regular basis. And I'd love to talk with you about how Keys to the Shop Consulting can take things to the next level for you and your operation. So I'd encourage you, again, go to the consulting page at keystotheshop.com, learn more about what's offered there, and then reach out to me. Let's have a phone call, a free 20-minute conversation with me to see what it might look like to help you in your operations in whatever situation you happen to be in. So hope to hear from you soon. And that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you all go see this new barista film, Baristas, and please do have an amazing week. And as always, I hope that this episode has truly given you keys to the shop.